I can do science. It's a confidence that all children can have, but many don't. Gender and family engagement expert Dale McCready outlines strategies that can make a difference in the current underrepresentation of women and people of color in STEM professions.
STEM is an area that shows underrepresentation for girls and for children and adults of minority groups. So I think it's really important that we promote STEM learning, that we begin to think about the ways in which we can broaden the perspectives that we have in STEM, and that we can engage with all children and all adults in thinking about STEM and what's important. Science is a very broad area. So science is often understood as what a child experiences in school, or science is understood as what happens at the bench, in the laboratory. And there have been a lot of studies that ask people to draw a scientist, or to think about what a scientist looks like, or describe what it means to be a scientist. And often those representations are very stereotypical, very traditional. One of the things that we're really trying to do in the broader field, as well as here in the museum, is to help people think about what counts as science, right? Science is not just that. It is that, but it's not just that. You know, an environmental educator who's out, doing bird counts, someone thinking about genetic counseling and thinking about what it means to understand how genes work and what that means for heredity. These are all examples of ways in which one can engage in science. One of the things that we know certainly about girls, and we had a recent study released where this idea of what counts as science is really important, because often if the idea of being a scientist is a very narrow view, then it's unappealing, and it's not something that is necessarily an area of pursuit or interest. And so girls in particular, and youth that aren't interested in that narrow area of science will not follow through.
If that actually fell through, it would fail to break the circuit. So then it would be
my sense of things from my own experience and from a lot of the literature is that groundwork is set really early in children's lives about what they care about, what they're interested in. Specific areas of interest evolve, and certainly my own interest in biology sort of was evident in high school, but when I look back and I think about my engagement as a child, collecting bugs and trying to, think about lightning bugs and how they make light or whatever it was, so that really happened early, and I think that for many that happens early on, but I would hate to have people think that's the only window, right? So there's evidence also that there's transformation that can happen in high school, and I mentioned earlier there's transformation in adults. We've had adults that have participated in programs, and as a Girl Scout leader, participated in a program and wrote me and said, I'm going back to graduate school. You got me feeling like I could do science, and now I want to really explore this further. So I think the window's wide, but there's definitely big moments when I think girls can either choose to move away from science because they don't like science, or may actually move towards something else because they feel really supported and more easily engaged and able to achieve in those areas. Certainly one of the things that we know about girls, for sure, looking at the percentage of women in the various sciences around the world, is that it's not a capacity issue. And I mean, there's lots of evidence that suggests that, but just to be clear, it's not about capacity. It's about potentially cultural or social influences that change whether women pursue science. And it may be issues of whether they pursue or whether they're seeing another field that's just more appealing. But there's a lot of evidence that suggests that there are strategies that are very much more effective for girls and children of minority background that are much more encouraging. Having science experiences that are more process-based, having exposure to role models that reflect who they are, being able to work collaboratively and recognize that there's learning that can happen together and for a social good, social purpose. Those are all really important in thinking about what makes science appealing, certainly to girls, which is my area of expertise. And there is evidence suggesting that those strategies are also very important and very effective actually for all children. So, having a safe environment, having a collaborative experience, feeling that one can get engaged, and then ultimately develop a sense of themselves, an identity of themselves as a science learner. I can do this. It's possible for me to be a scientist.